Hi and welcome to Candyfloss Crochet. Today I'm going to take you through a few of the basics. So we're going to do a starting chain and then we're going to do a double crochet. In American terms, just to confuse you, that's classed as a single crochet. So what you will need to get started is some yarn. So I am using this very fetching Stylecraft Special DK in the colour Wisteria. You also need your crochet hook. I'm using a 4mm crochet hook. You may need a stitch marker, but I'm going to show you what you use those for. You also will need a darning needle, not necessarily for this one, but because this is a starter video, I'm just showing you all the equipment that you can use. You'll need some little scissors, some little snips, and let's get started. So the first thing that most people struggle with is a slip knot. Find the end of my yarn, and you start most crochets start with either a magic circle or a slip knot. So to do a slip knot, twist it over, make sure you've got a nice long end, put your end through. I usually get my hook at this point and pull it through, pull it tight with a reasonable play on your hook, and that's a slip knot. When you're holding your yarn, so I am actually left-handed, but I crochet holding my hook in my right hand and my yarn in my left hand. I think it's because I probably learned like you off your YouTube videos. So I hold my hook like I would with a knife and fork. I use this finger to guide my yarn that's on the hook, and I put my yarn in my left hand. And I tend to wrap the yarn around my little finger just to keep some tension on and just hold that in place. Just do it that way. And then I wrap the yarn around my finger there. So if you can see, I go through the back there and I just wrap that around. That keeps the tension on your yarn without too much pressure on your hand, and tension is quite important in crochet. If it's too loose, the stitches won't be consistent, and if it's too tight, you won't be able to get your hook into each of the stitches. When you're first crocheting, I always hold the knot, so I use my middle finger and my thumb to pinch the knot, and that holds that in place so I can move it, and I use my index finger on my right hand to hold that as well, just to get used to it. When you're yarning over, which is what you'll see in a lot of patterns, when you see a pattern it says YO, it's yarn over. Now when you're yarning over, you are bringing the yarn over the back of the hook, not over the front. If you do it over the front, that's a whole different stitch. Go over the back, grab hold of the yarn, twist your hook down so that it catches in that top, and pull your loop that you've already got on your hook over. And that's a chain, just one chain. And as you can see, I'm holding it here. That keeps my tension. My finger poking up in the air there keeps my tension. So let's do that again. So you can either bring your finger over, or you can use your hook and pull it over. Twist your hook so it's facing down or towards yourself. And using this hand, your left hand, you're pulling that yarn over. So that's another chain. Yarn over, pull up and over. Yarn over, pull up and over. Yarn over, pull up and over. And there you are, you're creating your chains. Each one of these is a chain. I'm going to do a few more. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. And what you'll notice is that sometimes your tension might start off looser and it gets tighter as you get more to grips with it. To start off with, if you're just starting with crochet, I would do quite a few chains. Just get used to the feel of holding and twisting your hook and the tension in your hand, in your left hand, with holding your yarn. Just keep going until you have quite a few on your hook. And then I'm going to show you how that works. So yarn over, I'm pulling the hook from the top, so at the moment it's facing upwards. When I bring the yarn over, I'm twisting it towards me, which catches it into the hook at the top. Keep my finger up because that keeps that tension. If you let that tension off, then you lose your yarn. Yarn over, pull through, so a nice big baggy one there. If you do get some big ones, you can, before you move on to the next chain, just pull them tight. So if it goes really loose and baggy, you can pull them in a bit tighter. So that's basically how you do a chain. I just wanted to point out with your chains, when you're counting them, these are your chains. So this one on your hook, you never count. This one you never count when you go. So every pattern you come to will say chain however many chains and go into your third chain from the hook. You don't count the one that's on your hook. Your first chain is here, second chain, third chain, fourth chain. So these are your individual chains. They're like little miniature V's. There you go. That might be easier to see. The sun's come out on me now. I want to also point out what we call the back bumps. So if you think of this almost like a spine, so these here are the back bumps. If you turn it over, you've got your V's, and on this side you have these back bumps. It's quite important to understand with some patterns they will ask you to work your next round into these back bumps. But on the whole, when you're working back down your chain, you would just go into here. So that's basically how you do a chain. I'm now going to go and show you how you can turn your work. So this is a bit that when you first started with crochet, you master the chain and you just end up with a chain that's say a foot long, and you think, I can do this is great, but you're quite nervous about how to turn your work. So at this stage, you're not really turning anything. You're going to work back along this chain, so into these stitches. So to do a single crochet, or in America, sorry, a double crochet in America, that's a single crochet. You insert your hook into your stitch. So I'm not going to go into the first one, I'm going to go into the second one. Insert your hook, and I've got 2 loops now on my hook. I'm going to bring my yarn over and I'm going to pull through the first loop. Then I'm holding it down here. If you see, my fingers are pinching it here just to keep that tension. I'm going to yarn over again and pull through, twisting my hook down as I go just to catch that yarn, pull through both loops on my hook. And that is a single crochet and a double crochet. Let's do that again. So insert, yarn over, pull through 1, pulling that down, yarn over, pull through 2. And what you'll find, it sort of seems to be a bit knotty, so make sure when you're going into your work, I've worked this stitch here, so you can see I've got the yarn coming out the top of this one. My very next chain is here, this one next to it. So make sure you don't go back in the same one, and make sure you don't miss one either. It's very easy to just sort of jump to the second one along, but make sure you're going into them. One thing to do would be to count your chains as you go. So when you work back along, you can count them again to make sure you haven't missed one. Just gonna put my tension back on. So fingers in, wrap it round, finger in the air, insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, insert into the next one, yarn over, pull through 1, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Now you can see as it starts to grow, I've got little V's on the top here of my work as I'm starting to go along. So there's my chain, and this is my first row of stitches. So I'm going to do that one again with you. So insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Got a few more to go. I think you've probably got the gist of this now, but I'm going to take you to the end and then we can have a look and see how those stitches have worked out. What you might find when you're first practicing this is that your tension changes on each stitch. So you might have some stitches that appear bigger than others, and some stitches that are a lot tighter than others, or you might struggle to get into the chain. So right, I'm at the end now. This is my very first chain that I did, or my very last chain on this row. So I'm just going to finish off by going into that one. And I'll just pull this loop up. I've now created a row of single crochets, American terms, double crochet, UK terms. Okay, so I'm just going to call them double crochets from now on, otherwise I'm going to confuse you. So this is where your stitch marker could come in. If you wanted to finish your piece of work now, you can put your stitch marker on here. And when you pull your yarn, if you happen to leave it and it got pulled, it's not going to pull that stitch out, and it's not going to undo all your work. And believe me, when you're working on a bigger project, if that happens, it's quite heartbreaking, all the work that you've done. So that's our starting chain. And we've gone back and we've done a double crochet all the way along. And as you can see now, we have nice neat little V's at the top. Okay, so I'm just going to explain how these V's work. So this is a stitch, and when you work a stitch, you're going in the gap underneath the V. This is called your front loop, this one here, and this one's called your back loop. So certain patterns will say only crochet into the front loop, and others might say go into the back loop. But if it just says work a double crochet, you're going into both loops. Okay, so I'm just going to take my stitch marker back out, make my hole a bit bigger. Now we're going to turn our work. So this time we're turning the complete work. Do one chain, so chain one, and flip your work round, and you're going to work back along here. So remember, we're working into these V's at the top here. These are your V's. So if I twist it slightly, you can see your V's here all the way along. So these are the ones you're working into. Make sure you go underneath that stitch and grab both those V's. So remember, we were doing a double crochet. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two, go into the next stitch, back into the next one. So insert, yarn over, pull through, insert, yarn over, pull through two. Make sure you capture both. I nearly missed one then. Insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two. Insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two. So if you notice when I'm doing this, I'm using this finger here, my index finger on my right hand, to drive forward my hook. So I'm using that to angle it. Some people hold them like this. It's entirely up to you. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. There's no right or wrong way. Lots of people do it in lots of different ways. Some people wrap the yarn around their finger twice to pull the tension. Some people just grip it. But I find it works easier if I've got my tension pulled on there, and I keep this is quite taut, but enough of a play that when I'm inserting my hook and I'm yarning over, it's pulling on it and it's releasing it just enough to keep the tension on, but so that the stitches don't fall off your hook, but also to allow the yarn to flow. Yarn over, pull through two, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through two, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two. I'm working all the way along. Now a double crochet is quite a tight stitch. It's also quite a small stitch in comparison to a treble crochet, which is the next stitch that I will show you, which you'll be able to find on my YouTube page. I'm nearly at the end now, working along. Insert, yarn over, pull through, two loops, yarn over, pull through two. On the last but one stitch. And make sure when you get to the end of your row, you can see here I've got one stitch left. So what is a very, very common problem is that people's work starts to gravitate in or it goes out because you add an extra stitch in. So it's always good to count. So if you get to a point where you think, hang on a minute, have I got one left? The other trick you can do is put a stitch marker in your very first stitch. So for example, it will be in here, but on this row where I've just done my very first stitch is here. That's where I want to work back in. Let me just work that one. So my very last stitch is in there, picking up both my V's. Okay, and then chaining one and turning. And if I work my first stitch in here, then what I can do, if I had another stitch marker, which I haven't got to hand at the moment, I can put that into my very first stitch. So when I work back along, I know that's my last stitch that I'm going to be working. So as you can see, it's quite a nice compact stitch. And the trick is to keep that edge straight, and the best way to do that is to count the V's at the top. So don't count these which are called your post. You need to count your V's at the top, and if you're short, then you've gone wrong somewhere. You've either skipped one or you haven't picked up your last stitch at the end. Okay, that is a double crochet. In American terms, a single crochet. My next video will be around the treble crochet, so if you want to watch that one, you can go onto my YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, and you'll get all my latest videos come through to you. Okay, enjoy crocheting.